Hello and welcome back. My name is Garland Fuller. I have just done a 5-part pivot series and have been getting some interesting feedback. I feel like I've been told that I sound like I'm somebody's friend, and it feels very intimate and personal and like I'm talking directly to you, which I don't know that was necessarily how I was thinking about it, but I feel like that's just my nature. So you're getting how I would be if I were sitting in a room with you by myself. This is another pivot that I've made that I feel like I didn't mention because it's so hard to talk about. There's been like so many things that I have done, I'd say, over my life, but I'd say this one is probably the thing I think about every day, and not necessarily think about it like it's a hard choice, but like it's now a part of my lifestyle. And so because that is a part of my lifestyle, it's made it very much a part of who I am. And so I initially wasn't going to talk about it because it gets very spicy and people have opinions and all of this. And the only reason I'm talking about it is because there was a recent conversation in the zeitgeist in the media, and it was courtesy of Billie Eilish. So, Billie Eilish is a famous singer, and she recently sparked a conversation online after saying, "You can eat meat, you can love animals, but you can't do both." And it's funny because that sparked a conversation in my household because everyone in our household is vegan or does not eat meat, myself included. And so my daughter, of course, brings this home to me because she is probably the target demographic for this kind of content online. And then she, of course, had something to say about it, which then my partner and I then had a conversation with her about it. And essentially, we all in agreement to what she said because it's very hard to say that you love animals and would never hurt an animal. However, you're consuming animals on a daily basis, particularly if you choose to eat meat. And so I initially was like, I don't even know if I want to talk about this because it is something where I feel like it starts to get controversial. People, when they hear about veganism and food and health and all of this, it becomes politically and emotionally charged. People get defensive. People hear certain words and they instantly go into a protect mode. And I just want this to be very clear. I am not telling anyone they should become vegan. I'm not telling anybody this is what they need to be doing. For me, I am sharing a pivot, a personal one, because becoming vegan in 2019 changed my life way more than just what's on my plate. It changed how I consume, how I shop, how I move through the world, how I define alignment, how I travel, how I relate to animals, nature, my body, even consciousness itself. So I want to put this in perspective or put it in a container of that's where I'm coming from, even talking about this, because I don't want this to be misconstrued as now she's trying to tell us to do this. You do what you want. It's a free country. It's a free world. At least still, I think you can choose to eat whatever you want to eat. I'm just sharing with you what I have noticed since I made the decision to become more plant-based and whole food and what that has meant for me. And so whether you agree with Billie Eilish or not, don't come in my comments. Don't come in my DMs because I'm not here to have that battle. That's not the battle I'm trying to have. The battle is not even a battle. You need to talk to your savior, yourself, okay? I'm not the one. For me, this journey started before 2019 when I went vegan. This journey is something I've been thinking about for far longer. So I'm going to talk about the first point of what this has meant for me. So my awareness and my social justice background, I think, is maybe not something a lot of people know about, but I went to UC Berkeley. I don't think when I went to Berkeley, I was as aware of a lot of things because I had a private Catholic all-girls high school education, so very much kind of some of the tenets and the things that come with that were in my awareness. And so it wasn't until I think, started to read more and be aware, and I think it was my senior year, I heard about McDonald's taking parts of the rainforest and using it to factory farm cows. And that for me sounded like, why? Like, why would you do that? This is literally the lungs of the earth, the Amazon rainforest. Why would you cut that down to graze food that we're at some point going to eat? And then this just doesn't sound right. So I stopped eating McDonald's in my senior year and literally would not eat there and would not go there for years. I dare I say, I still don't go there now. And oddly enough, my own child did not get a Happy Meal growing up. And I know people have looked at me crazy. What do you mean you've deprived her of a Happy Meal? If you know what's in the Happy Meal, it's a whole different type of meal. But at the time, it was like, what's going on? What's happening? And this is late or mid 90s, I would say. So for me, it very much was like aware that there is a lot of stuff happening with our food, but not necessarily realizing the depth of it. Then I read Food Revolution in probably 2001. This is a book by John Robbins, and I believe he's updated this over time because it was such a thing back in 2001. John Robbins is the heir of the Baskin-Robbins fortune. He essentially walked away from that fortune in order to live a plant-based existence and to literally promote it and encourage people to look at it. He felt that was not in alignment with his values to take money from something that promotes dairy and use of dairy to become wealthy, and then decided I'm not going to do that anymore. So I remember reading that book and thinking, wow, that's a big decision to make. Literally, your whole legacy of your family comes from something that you no longer believe in, and you were essentially walking away from it in order to live in alignment with your values. I remember thinking, wow, I don't know. Could I do that? Could I do that? And now at this age, I can totally get why he did it. It's just either it's working for you or it's not working for you. So that book deeply impacted me, and I became a kind of pescatarian for a few years where I would just eat fish because in my mind, I thought, oh, I'm from a place where people fish. And so fishing doesn't sound so crazy because you actually have to go out and catch it, and you don't only eat fish, but you also eat other vegetables. So that was my thing for a few years. Then I got married, and my partner was not an omnivore. So I had to figure out how that was going to work. And as a result, started to go back to eating meat, but was always aware, fully aware that too much of this is not a good thing. Too much of this is not how I want to eat all the time. So I've always been interested in like where things come from, who pays the price for that, what systems do we normalize when we participate in that, and whether our lifestyle actually aligns with our values. And so over time, this awareness has kept evolving. So I just wanted to give that as a background because I think if you don't understand that, some of this may not make any sense. So the first point that I want to talk about is one of the biggest shifts for me deciding to go vegan was my awareness. My awareness of where I am in the food system, in the food chain, in food sovereignty, all the words that people use around food. And once you start learning about where your food comes from, meaning how it's raised, how it's grown, how it gets to the grocery store, what the conditions are of the animals, what's the condition of the farms, what are they spraying on things. Like when you start to get into the food systems and you realize how things are done, you can't unsee it. You can pretend if you want, but for me, it was very much like, I can't see this. I can't unknow this. I watched a variety of documentaries. There's Forks Over Knives, there's The Game Changers, there's a whole host of ones, a Cowspiracy, a Seaspiracy, like all of these things. There's a lot of food documentaries out there. So I'm not going to specifically endorse one or the other, But if you want to go down that rabbit hole for your own awareness in terms of just animal welfare, planet, what it's doing to the planet, what it's doing to our bodies and our health, there are studies around what this means in terms of eating processed meats. The World Health Organization did a report on that. There's the longitudinal China study where they look over years and years of people eating certain kinds of food and seeing what kind of diseases and conditions and health issues that they have. So I'm not here to tell you one thing. It's literally, I did my research. I went down the rabbit hole. I learned some things. And when I learned those things, I couldn't unsee it, unlearn them. I had to make a decision for myself about where I wanted to be in all of this. I encourage people to do their own research because everybody is different. Literally every body is different and every body's mindset and how they value things is different. So you do what works for you. Again, not telling anybody what to do, just this is what worked for me or what changed and pivoted and shifted for me. And it became very clear to me in looking at that I need to discern where I fit in all of this. Where do I fit in how I want to be a part of this system? And then made me more not only aware, but empathetic. Empathetic to definitely animals, definitely to the planet, definitely realizing my own health and where my health comes into all of this. So it's less about restriction for me. I know a lot of people who talk about, oh, you can't have this and you can't have that. For me, it's more alignment. This is more aligned with who I am and how I see things and how I choose to participate in the system of food. And so that I think is a shift. It's a total shift. The second shift, I would say, is my relationship to food itself and learning how to grow food, learning about the earth and seasons and water and soil and the care of these things, learning about the various seeds, learning about the different ways to grow things, the times of year to do it. I can tell you before this, I did not understand seasons like I do now. I know what time of year certain things are going to be in season. I know when I need to buy certain things. I know when I need to plant certain things. I'm not by any means a farmer. I'm by no means living primarily off of anything that I grow, but just my knowledge of the cycle of food and growing it and understanding all of that substantially has shifted. And then spending time in COVID in gardens and doing more around understanding how plants are medicine, what plants can do, herbalism as a practice. All of that has really been something that has been a bit of a, I don't want to say an obsession, but something that I'm like, wow, I didn't realize all of this. I think you have awareness. It's aware. If any of you have had aunts or grandparents who've had any type of salves or teas or what we used to call home remedies that they would give you for a cold or a sore throat or a hangover or whatever. I think all of this is in our awareness, but I don't think sometimes we realize it actually comes from a place of like history. Someone's researched this. And so as a result, they know that these plants can do these things. And so that has been something for me that it has changed how I think about so much when it comes to food as a source of medicine or food as a source of healing. So when I eat, it's also not about what I can't have. It's also how I nourish myself. And I don't know that people see it in that way because we eat so sometimes unconsciously. We just throw stuff in our mouth, quickly eat. We have to just consume something. And so we don't sometimes take the time to actually look at what we're eating, what's in it, what is it doing for our bodies, how is it nourishing us. And again, I am by no means so hardcore about it. I will have Impossible nuggets and fries when I want. But by no means does this mean that if I have a salad or if I have lentils or brown rice instead of white rice, or realizing that there's so many ways that you can cook food. You can saute it in the pan or you can roast it. Which one has less oil in it? Which one doesn't require any oil? Which ones can you use in certain times of year because that's when that vegetable or fruit is in season. And so just understanding that, a lot of that, I did not have that level of awareness prior to this pivot. I'd say the last point is just, I'd say the shift in my consciousness in general. And by no means is this like easy. It's really more so just like when you make one step, then you start noticing other things. And so it starts me asking questions like, does this align with my values? What am I consuming mindlessly? What am I paying attention to? Am I living in a way that reflects the level of awareness that I want to have? And it's not really sometimes what I eat. It is about what I eat. Yes, I think about it, but it's those choices and being intentional with those choices has carried over into how I think about other things. So if I can be as aware of what I'm putting into my body, I can also be aware of what I'm putting into my mind. I can be aware of what I'm listening to. I can be aware of who I'm around. There's just a level of intentionality with all of it that has transferred over from the food into other aspects of my life. And again, this has become a lifestyle rooted in intentionality for me. It's not something people wouldn't know this about me if they don't sit at a table with me and eat, because I'm not telling everybody except for now. But I don't lead with this. I don't start with this because I don't want this to be the reason why you either put me in a box or you think that I'm better, or the moral superiority that starts with veganism that I'm like, I don't want that to be the reason why you either don't connect with me. It's like also another conversation around religion and stuff like that. So for me, I just consume differently now. I consume things differently, not just food, but media, energy, conversations, relationships, environment. I think that's why I don't know that I can go back to corporate spaces, because so much of who I've become as a result of being more intentional and conscious about who I am and how I show up is literally the antithesis of what is going on in some of these spaces. And I can see it very clearly because I've had to detach myself from it. And I can see it very clearly because I have had to do my own work. And so I can see when other people are struggling with it, or when other people are having a hard time trying to figure out, how do I make this work and align with my values? And it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of awareness first. And then when you make those steps, it just becomes easier. So I just was afraid to talk about this because I feel like it turns into sometimes these places that people go down that I didn't really want to go. But for me, the journey, I think, has actually made me like a softer person, more reflective person, more aware. I've also become, I'd say, more compassionate, because not to say that I was like a terrible person before, but I feel like I just wasn't aware. I can't even explain it. It's just that wasn't in my consciousness or awareness. And so as a result, it just made it difficult for me to even show up for certain things because I wasn't even there, because I was just going through the motions of it, which I feel like food, because of how, especially with DoorDash and convenience of Grubhub and drive through, and like food can be grabbed and go and then thrown in your mouth and then you're like on to the next thing. So we don't usually even think about what we put in our bodies because we're so like on to the next and moving so quickly. So for me, I just wanted to share this because it's not just animals, it's people, it's the earth, it's my own health, it's my body, like it's all of these things. But I think the biggest surprises along the way for this journey for me was realizing that slowing down is like a big part of this, and having this be a values aligned conversation and having this be around what works for you. And so this is what's changed my life in a lot of ways. So I'm just going to end this episode with, I hope this resonated with you or something resonated with you. Again, share it with someone who's navigating their own pivot, or share this with someone who maybe has an interest in learning more about this, not necessarily veganism, but just pivoting in general. And I genuinely would love to hear, what's one pivot in your life that's changed more than just the surface level thing you originally thought it would be? Leave me a comment, send me a message, share your thoughts. If you're someone who's currently navigating a reinvention, a lay, looking for more alignment and intentionality with what you do, make sure you subscribe and join for future conversations, because sometimes the pivots we fear talking about the most are actually the ones that can deeply transform us. So I just want to thank you and have a good one. Bye.